Hey Hawks, and welcome to Hawks Talks Podcast. I'm your host Hugo.
And Zoe.
And we have a special guest, Mr. Moore. Yes. And we have our co-host Sadie.
Hi.
And our special guest, Mr. Moore. Yes. And this is Hawk Talks Podcast.
Guys, I don't know if I liked it.
So, Mr. Moore, you took some time from your busy schedule. Well, Mr. Moore has taken some time from his busy schedule to come and stream on our podcast. So we are excited to have you, Mr. Moore. Are you excited to be here?
Yes, I'm very excited
Yes. Why are you excited?
because I get to hang out with you guys and delay my work for at least a couple more minutes.
Oh, that's good.
That's great.
So for the people that don't know you, who are you?
I'm the dean of students for the middle school primarily and the high school as a secondary.
Okay. What else? Like, tell us more about, we already know that. Who's Mr. Moore?
Who is Mr. Moore? That's,
are you?
that's such a loaded question. Like, how do you
You can narrow it down.
quantify all of the stuff that you are in a short podcast? Like,
best way-
you don't have enough film, you don't have enough hard drive space, you don't have enough time.
Then just do a little recap. Do
All
it
right,
in your
recap.
book, your little introduction. That's all you need.
Okay. So last year, well, it was my first year as an admin here.
And what you think about that?
It was interesting.
Why?
It was interesting. Well, I'm going to hold my tongue on some of those things. But during the time of me learning how to do the job and whatnot, I wrote a book. I wrote a book, a memoir, basically.
Wait, where can we find it?
You cannot. I have
hasn't
not.
published
I have
it
not
yet?
released it. Okay, so
When is it coming out?
it's,
There'll be questions
I have
along the
to-
way with his little.
I have to explain. I have to explain why I can't release it.
Oh.
Because you work
Okay.
here?
No, it's not because I don't work here. Because I have no problem stating stuff, right?
Yeah.
But the big reason why is because part of the people that are mentioned in that book, at one point in time, were on the FBI's most wanted list
Oh.
and had been in prison for some pretty gruesome things.
Yeah.
So just to make sure that I keep my family safe, I want to make sure that I don't have that person's name mentioned
Yeah.
while he's still alive. So he was my grandfather's friend, actually.
Don't expose too much now.
And I'm not going to expose too much. I'll just say for the record that he was somebody that committed a crime that was nationally known and got on the FBI's most wanted list. And within the last 10 to 15 years, he also got put back on the list for committing another crime, basically as a senior citizen.
Oh.
So he's still
He
doing
was an
stuff.
crazy.
So
old
yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Oh, no, go
He
ahead.
was an old person doing crimes.
He's an old person doing crimes. I mean, like
And not just any
that's
old.
scary.
Like,
they're not just
trespassing.
any old crimes, like some pretty hefty things. So
Insane.
yeah.
I know.
What was yours?
So, when they pass away, would you release it or still no? Is it still
I would, because he's the last person in there that's violent enough that I wouldn't release the book at this point.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just.
Wait, to the kids that are shocked about all this, because if I didn't know you, I would have been like, oh my God. Like, how are you going through all that? Like,
And-
how did you live through so much to have this kind of crazy book?
You know what? The funny part of it, and this kind of ties into education, right? So the important part of all this stuff is that I grew up super, super, super poor, right? You have your poor kids, then you have your poor kids, and then you have your poor kids. All right? That was me. So I was that kid. I was that kid in Stockton that grew up extremely rough. Extremely rough. I don't know how many schools I have been to. Maybe 30, maybe 35, maybe 40.
They were popular or what?
While you being a student?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're poor, you live out the term of your lease agreement, right? And whenever that stuff ends, then you obviously have to move on.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that stuff where family couldn't afford stuff. They would stay there as long as they possibly could. Couldn't pay for electrical or water or garbage or rent. So you go where your relatives are. You go wherever you can. So that's essentially what ends up happening.
What got you
But
through all of that?
and that was kind of my next point, is that what got me through all of that stuff was education. Okay. I did drop out of high school. I worked on a farm. I baled hay. I did those kinds of things. And then came back after almost 3 years of being out of school. Okay. When I came back to school, I moved out of where I was at. So I moved from Stockton to Oklahoma because obviously, you move where your family's at, right? And while I was out there, I moved in with my grandparents for a little bit of time, and then I moved back with my mom. My mom had this terrible relationship and stuff like that, but it didn't really work out very well because we were just like fire and kerosene. Like you just don't mix my mom's husband and me in the same room. It just wasn't a good pairing, right? So I got kicked out. I was homeless.
Oh, in Oklahoma?
How old were you?
I was 15. I was 15.
Oh, that's insane.
I was 15, so I lived underneath a bridge.
So you were a troll? Just kidding. Kidding.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
what?
So essentially, what ended up happening with that, because this kind of ties into the whole education, how I got out of it, right? I was eating out of garbage cans. I was bathing in a river. I was homeless, like really homeless, not just like I'm couch surfing or anything like that. I was literally underneath a bridge.
Were you alone under the
I was
bridge?
alone. Yeah,
Okay.
I was it. Now, the crazy part of all this stuff is during this time, my uncle was just released from prison. Both he and my grandfather went to prison for committing some stuff.
Yeah.
He got exonerated from the crime, and he told me some terrifying things while I was underneath the bridge. So I was mentally not in a good headspace.
Oh, so you're kind of like crazy.
But my grandfather, who happened to be a trust fund baby, was also in prison. Okay. And when he was in prison, he had a trust fund though. So he paid for me to move from Oklahoma back to California, where I graduated high school from. But I came back to live with my aunt. So I went from my mom's house after I got kicked out of my house to being homeless, from homeless to moving in with my aunt. And my aunt had 3 rules. And these 3 rules were, hey, this is an open-ended ticket. I can send you right back where you came from. Number 2, you'll do what I say, when I say, how I say, if I say it. If I ask you to jump, you're going to ask me how high. And then she was like, number 3, you're going to go to youth group. And I was like, what's a youth group? I had no idea. So at that point, I started going to school. But when I first went in to register for the school, I went and I talked to a lady who was the registrar of the school. And when we walked in and we showed her a transcript, she started laughing. I was like, why is she laughing? And I had 35 credits as a junior. Okay, I had 35 credits as a junior. And my aunt was like, well, what does he need to do to be able to make sure that he's a senior? Well, what needs to happen is he needs to go to continuation school because he's not going to graduate from a normal school. So I ended up having my aunt tell this lady, well, what's the chances that he goes to continuation school, makes up his time, and comes back and graduates on time? And this lady told my aunt, in the history of California, it's never been done. Okay. And so my aunt, fiery redhead, just a fiery redhead, goes, all right, well, remember his name, because next year he's going to come over here, he's going to slam those transcripts on your desk, and he's going to have made up all of his stuff. The lady starts laughing and tells us to get out. So fast forward 9 months later, I came back and I slammed my transcripts on her desk.
Wow, you're so iconic.
because during that time I made up 3 years of school. I made up 157 and a half credits
In 9 months?
between September and May.
That's crazy.
I made up 157 and a half credits, graduated on time, played football, did all that stuff before I went to the military. But I used education as the vehicle, right? A lot of people will kind of wallow in their sorrow and stuff like that, and not focus on the fact you have to look at the silver lining in things. There's always value in conflict. There's always value in failure. You just have to be able to look hard enough to find it, and you have to be resilient enough to push through it. So I used education as my way of being able to get out of that life, because I didn't want to have kids that would be homeless, that would not be able to eat, that would have to shift schools, that would not have running water or not be able to flip a switch and the electricity comes on and stuff like that. So that's kind of the origin story of Mr. Moore before all the other craziness kind of ensued and whatnot. So yeah, poor guy, poor kid from Stockton, and then graduated on time.
So use that as motivation, guys. Moore went from the bottom
To the top.
to the top to becoming Perez Hilton's bodyguard.
No, I was not. I was
He
not
was Perez Hilton's bodyguard.
It was
Yes, he
not
was.
Paris Hilton's
Yes, you
bodyguard.
were. He
Stop.
was Paris Hilton's
Malarkey.
bodyguard.
Okay, I worked for her grandfather, and yes, that was his bodyguard.
Yeah.
But did you meet Paris Hilton?
Yes.
So there you go. He was Perez
Oh my
Hilton's
gosh.
bodyguard.
But yeah, I worked for Baron Hilton, for Kathy, for Rick, for Danny, for Connie, for Steve Bolenbach, who was the president, and Kevin Strouch, who was the accountant for Disney. So I worked for Disney. Steve Bolenbach worked for Disney, but I worked for Hilton, their corporate office in Beverly Hills.
So you've seen some stuff.
You've met some people.
He
I've met
signed some
Yeah.
NDAs, guys.
Yes, there's certain things that I will not be able
Not
to talk
only Mr. Moore was Paris Hilton's bodyguard, but he was in movies. He was in movies, guys.
Okay.
Tell us about. And he was a
Movies.
stuntman.
Wait,
He was a
wait.
stuntman.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
the NDA, is it like ongoing until like you die or what?
Yeah, you guys don't get to know.
No, like, but how do NDAs work?
NDAs, so a non-disclosure agreement basically works that for the term of the contract, which is in perpetuity, that I would not share personal information about the family members, their habits, their things, right? So there are some times where you just can't talk about their normal days on and days off, even though you know a lot of information, you know, kind of how the family works, you know, because everybody has flaws, right? It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire, it doesn't matter if you're a trillionaire. Everyone has flaws, everyone has issues and stuff like that. So that's the kind of stuff that those NDAs cover, is to make sure that they're seen in a positive light, because it would ultimately hurt their brand or their marketing,
And that the privacy is like kind of hidden or stays private.
right? I'm a vault.
Wow. Well, tell us about those movies you're in. You were a stunt double? Or what?
No, I was not a stunt double. I was kind of a coordinator. Okay. I did act in a few short films and stuff like that. But essentially, I would do coordination, right? Law enforcement type of coordination, since I obviously have the military background and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, I just went through and taught people how to go into a building and take it over and stuff like that. And
Oh, like for movies.
for a couple of the movies, and then obviously having a martial arts background, having a Marine Corps background, having that background in Stockton and stuff like that really helped.
How did you get yourself into the military?
So,
And
funny
would you recommend it to kids? I want to
100%. And here's a reason why I would say, sorry, let me turn my radio off here.
Okay.
Duty sometimes calls, so hopefully nobody
At
gets you
Delhi
there.
High School.
At Delhi
High School.
all the time. You have no idea. I got into the military because my aunt told me during my senior year, she's like, hey, here's what's going to happen. You're either going to go get a job and help pay rent, or you're going to go to college and go full time. And I was burnt out from school because I locked myself in a room to be able to complete all of my assignments and stuff like that.
You locked in.
locked in.
I would come home and I would just do work. Well, I didn't want to go to college right after the fact. And so what ended up happening was, she's like, these are your options. I was like, I'm going to take door number 3. And she says, what's door number 3? And I said, I'm going to go into the military. So
What'd she say? Perfect.
good riddance. I don't know.
Good luck.
But I ended up, going through all the process, going through MEPS, going through taking the ASVAB and all that stuff, and outlining when I was going to take off for boot camp and whatnot. So all that stuff happened, and I went in and I had my struggles just like anybody else that's new at something, that's different. But actually boot camp wasn't hard.
No, even though they scream at your face and everything.
I mean, think about it. If you think about it from this perspective, I was homeless. I was homeless.
through it.
All of the hard mental, emotional stuff that you can potentially go through, I'd already gone through. I didn't have to face the same struggles as
It was
kids.
a second home, guys.
It gave me a foundation, right?
How long did you serve for?
I served for a total of 12
12.
years.
So it makes a foundation.
So, I mean, it definitely makes a foundation because when you have this no boundaries, no restrictions, get to do whatever you want, whenever you want, and then you have like, I think that people crave that, which is why I am the way I am around campus.
Crave what?
They crave the discipline. They crave framework to be able to operate within, right? Everybody needs framework to be able to operate within. And I think that for me, the military was what provided that framework for me.
Like that stability.
I mean, from having a complete chaotic upbringing to having structure, I mean, like I'm probably going to move towards structure versus chaos.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that.
I heard a little rumor that you got stabbed. Is it true?
Yes. Yeah, I've been stabbed on 2 separate occasions.
Oh
Name
my.
both.
Crazy.
Wait, are you able to
Are you
disclose that?
comfortable?
Yeah, oh yeah. No,
Okay.
that wasn't part of the NDA. So,
So it was while you were a bodyguard.
So it was not while I was
Oh,
a
it
bodyguard.
wasn't?
He was a
Okay.
kid.
It was when I was a kid. So I
Oh.
got
As a kid. Gets
I got
better.
stabbed by one and got stabbed through my arm and it came out the other side.
Oh.
So that was
Ouch.
the first time. The second time was, I don't want to say it was gang related because it wasn't really gang related. It just happened to be the person that did it was a gang member.
Yeah.
And I got into a conflict and they stabbed me right here. So it was more of
still have a
it was
scar
more of a
there?
slash than a stab.
You
This
have a
one was a
scar
stab. That was more of a slash.
You got a scar
But
here?
like, was it
I
random?
have scars in both.
or-
Yes.
Oh, go
No,
like
it was
this.
just a fight.
Oh, you
Show
got in a
us.
fight, Mr. Moore?
How old were you for both?
was 13.
One, I was, I think, 13 or 14. And the other, I think I was about 10.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So which one
Oh,
was when you were
yeah.
10 and the other one 14?
10 was the one that went through. 14 was,
Oh, my.
13, 14 was the one that was.
Were they both fights?
Yeah, one of them was just kind of caught off guard. And
Okay.
yeah, the other one was an actual fight. Yeah.
Bigger question: have you ever stabbed anyone?
I can neither confirm nor deny the allegations.
Was
Okay.
it for self-defense? Was it for
Self-defense.
self-defense?
You know what? Just stuff that I don't talk about.
Oh, it's
Okay.
okay. We don't have to say that here. Oh, yeah. Well, any more? So, like, if a kid here in the high school wants to join the army, like, you would recommend it?
I would recommend any branch of service, right? So you have
When I
the-
say army, I mean, like, military.
Yeah, the military service. So you'd say the military services because obviously Army is
Army's a
very
branch.
specific, right? Because it is a branch.
Yeah.
So you can go branch Army, you can branch Navy, you can branch Coast Guard, you can branch the men's department. I mean the Marine Corps. You can go that route. I mean, or you have Space Force, right? That's a newer one that's kind of going on and whatnot. So any one of those things, I mean, they're great. Like they give you framework. If you don't feel like you're at that Marine Corps level of fitness and stuff like that, I would say go towards maybe Air Force or Navy. Coast Guard is actually pretty hard, their boot camp. It's only 6 weeks long, but you're doing a lot of swimming. So if you're not a strong swimmer, probably don't want to go into the Coast Guard.
Sadie's gonna
But they
take
do a
that
lot
route.
of
funny.
coastal interdiction and stuff like that. Okay, when you do things like counter intel, they'll get on a cutter, they'll go on to a Coast Guard vessel, and they'll board ships and take over tons of, product that people are bringing from different places.
Well, out of the doom and gloom of your childhood, did you ever have like a favorite childhood memory? Like one that you're like, oh yeah.
My
A good
favorite
one.
childhood memory was tied to my grandfather, and we were so
The
poor.
trust fund baby.
Yes, the trust fund baby.
Just from baby.
He didn't have money all the time, right? He had money during this time of the year, and he would spend it all and whatnot. My favorite memory was I really wanted a plane. I saw this plane at a store, and I really wanted it. And one day I came home from school, and my grandfather built me a biplane. So what he did, he went over to his fence, he pulled off a fence board, and he made me an airplane out of stuff in his workshop.
Oh,
It was
that's
like
cute.
it was like one of the coolest memories I have was that whole thing.
How old were you?
God, I was 9
Oh, before the trauma.
before. No, the trauma had already started.
always
The
been
before
there.
worst, the stabbing.
The trauma, the trauma had already happened, before then too. So
Do you still have the plane?
I do not.
You don't.
No, yeah, unfortunately, no.
But you still have those memories.
I still have the memory is
Yes,
what counts.
That's what
so.
counts.
Yeah. Oh, that's really nice. Well, out of all this about you being like military, bodyguard, Perez Hilton's bodyguard, how did you end up
Writing
here
a
at
book.
Delhi? And that too. But at
Okay, so
Delhi, how'd you end up
before here, I ended up working in juvenile hall. So I'm a special educator by trade. When I first became a teacher, I was a special educator, and I worked in juvenile hall. When I worked in juvenile hall, the principal at juvenile hall and the principal here knew each other, and the principal at juvenile hall knew that I was going through an admin program to try to become an assistant principal, to becoming a dean, to whatnot.
Wait, so where was this juvenile hall at?
I would rather not say, not on camera.
Oh,
All right, there's still stuff, right? It's not very far away.
Oh, okay.
I've had students that are here that
Went there?
that were there. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I try to keep that all under wraps so that way it keeps them,
Yeah.
not highlighted, and
No, for
then also
sure.
keeps me.
I know, but the story about how did you come here? Like, to Delhi?
It was just a matter of
Coincidence?
somebody knew. It's all about your network. Your network is your net worth, right? So when you have people that are looking out for you, if you're doing a good job, then they'll recommend you for staff when they realize that you're not meant to be here forever. Like we're meant to make progress and continually move
So
forward.
this is one of your many steps.
So this is one of the steps. Yeah.
That's why I said many.
So are you stopping here? Or are you gonna continue to?
You
go up
guys,
the
you guys are
steps?
stuck with me. I don't know.
Oh, we're
Oh,
stuck.
okay.
We have to deal with you.
Well,
Well,
we have to deal with
actually,
you.
we
That's a couple
don't.
of
I mean,
months.
To those of you that
You
are
don't have us for
seniors,
much
you're
longer.
done or whatever, right? So then
I only
after
got
this
you
is
for like 2 years,
I
right?
know,
It
we
was
only had
2
you for 2
years.
years.
so it's too, yeah.
Well,
you're making it
this-
sound like there's finality to that right now. No,
Okay,
I'm still here.
So more. We
Oh,
love
we
having
won't
you
be here.
We
Yeah.
won't be here. We're gonna be gone. But do you feel like you downgraded from like being in a movies, or because you have an album that's too performing, or being with the richest of the rich? Do you feel like you downgraded by coming into Delhi, by
No.
choosing this?
No,
Or
not at
this
all.
kind of job.
I mean,
This
like-
Yeah.
job, not Delhi.
Not Delhi, not
I
Delhi.
mean,
The job.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like if I had the opportunity to pursue music full time and do it, I probably would take that chance.
Mhm.
But that's not my lot in life right now, right? My lot in life is connecting with people, right?
Do you think you
am-
connect with the students here?
I think I connect sometimes, but I have, I mean, I'm harder than what most people
Want?
want,
Yeah.
But do you think it's
but
what they
but
need?
softer than what actually people imagine. So I'm actually not a mean guy.
Yeah, I know.
I just have standards, and I want those standards to be met,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So that's the part where I think where it comes down to framework, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want structure. I wanted structure as a kid. I didn't have it. I had completely unbridled ability to do whatever I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And, honestly, I think I would prefer the framework.
Out of being here at Delhi, do you have any advice for the majority of these students?
Anything you want them to know?
Fail a million times, but learn the lesson in your failures. When you start to fail, you start to shape what you don't want to do that will help to get you towards where you want to be, what you should be doing. All right, everybody has a path. Everybody wants to be able to get from here to there. Whatever here to there is, all those failures and things in the meantime are steps that people can take in order to gain self-confidence and to move on and become who they're meant to be.
Okay.
That's great.
Out of
Oh, circling back to the album, when is it out, or is it out?
It's already
So it's out on Spotify, it's out on iTunes, Amazon, Pandora, iHeartRadio, all that stuff. I'm releasing one song at a time. I have released 3 so far. I'll be releasing number 4 next month. So about every 2 months, I'll be releasing it until I have 12 to 13 songs done.
Until it's all out.
wow.
So stay tuned for that, guys.
Stay tuned. Do you want us to know anything more about your music career?
Like, how did it start?
Oh, yeah. How did that
okay.
start?
So actually, me going to school in Livermore, when I went to youth group, I started learning how to play guitar. So my grandfather got me a guitar for Christmas, and I had my first guitar, and I started learning. I still have that guitar to this day.
Oh wow.
But I started learning how to play guitar. Played for youth group. Got done. Didn't play while I was in the Marine Corps, and then when I got out, I went to obviously the LA area, and a buddy of mine wanted me to be in his band and be his guitar player. So I moved to LA after I got out of the Marine Corps to pursue music, and started learning how to songwrite, learning how to sing. I didn't sing very well at first, so the funny part of all that stuff is that when I went to go and sing, he told me, he was like, I don't want you to ever sing for me. You're tone deaf. Right? You're tone deaf. Which was really funny because I use my failure as motivation or fuel. Okay. I got so mad that I decided to go and take vocal lessons. So I went to, there's a famous blues artist named B.B. King. I don't know if you've ever heard of that name.
No.
So B.B. King was an artist that played just a ton of blues music, right? And he was a blues artist. So I took vocal lessons with his vocal coach. So I spent a lot of money learning how to sing. And then when I got done on the back end of it, I went and kind of re-auditioned for my buddy's band. And he's like, you can't be in my band. And I'm like, why? He's like, you're too good.
Oh,
So it
made it up.
flipped opposite. So then I was offered a songwriting contract in Nashville. I won a competition where I won in both of the categories that I entered into.
What were those categories?
One was Christian, one was country. So I entered in, and I won in both of the categories that I entered into. They offered me a songwriting contract. I moved to Nashville. When I was over in Nashville, they wanted to offer me terms that I just didn't agree with. So I went to audio engineering school. When I went to audio engineering school, I learned how to record people, and then I went back to the studio and I helped to record.
Audio engineering, what do you mean?
Audio engineering. So say right now you're running a podcast, right?
Yeah.
You have a dial to be able to turn things up. You have a dial to turn things down. You have a microphone in front of somebody. You have the XLR cable that's attached to it, and then the microphone input. So I learned how to do all of the stuff from the part where the artist starts singing or playing an instrument into the board and mixing it and doing all of that stuff.
Oh, that's cool. Because I just know how to click, 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 and I'm done.
Yeah, there's definitely more than just clicks though when it comes down to audio engineering. So I helped to record a couple of famous people and stuff while I was in Nashville. And stuff.
Can you disclose who?
Sure. So I helped on the session for a guy named Marty Stewart, and I helped on a session for a lady named Kathy Mattea. So Marty Stewart, it was while I was in the studio that I held Johnny Cash's guitar. So he was Johnny Cash.
I don't know
So
who those
Marty
people
Stewart
are.
was Johnny Cash's guitar player. So Marty Stewart was Johnny Cash's guitar player. And Marty Stewart also married Johnny Cash's daughter.
Oh.
So that was kind of the whole connection with all
Are
that
they
stuff.
like famous country singers or?
I'll put it to you this way. Marty Stewart, to this day, is still one of the top bluegrass Americana artists on the planet. He's top 5.
Oh, okay.
So he's very, very solid.
Oh, that's good.
Is he a cool guy or no?
He was really cool. Yeah. He was super cool. Yeah. I
So
enjoyed
he's
him.
not like phony or like.
There's a lot of people, when you go and you meet people in Hollywood and wherever else.
He wasn't stuck up.
That he was not stuck up. There are people, that I've met, obviously NDA, right?
Yeah.
I can't disclose some of those names because it starts to get into that terrain that I don't feel comfortable in.
Yeah.
But there are people, but that's anywhere you go.
Yeah.
That's every level of every organization.
High school.
No matter where you are.
High school, business, military, you name it. You're always going to find people that you don't resonate with.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we love that.
Yeah,
Any more insiders about Mr. Moore?
Any
Let's
final
see.
thoughts?
What's the last part of it that people need to know?
I want them to know about you. Or just a bit more.
I might be in the Modesto Christmas parade. Pretty soon.
That's cute.
What is that?
So I'll be walking with my martial arts studio to go and do that here on the 7th of December.
Oh, that's really cute.
That's cute. You have a martial arts studio?
I don't have a studio, but
Okay.
but
Yeah, you joined that
I'm a
studio.
martial artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I've
Mr.
been.
Moore, you do everything. How do you
You do
find the
everything.
time?
I know.
I just don't get sleep.
You're like here all the time,
Yeah,
and then
I
you're doing
know.
music, and then you're doing that martial
And
arts.
you still have a family, right?
It's a facade. Yeah.
He
I
has
have a family.
7 kids.
Oh
No, I do not have. What do you think I am? Like made of money? Like kids are expensive.
At
man.
this point.
Yeah. No.
How many do you have?
I have 4.
Yeah, 4. Okay.
Literally 7. At this point.
I mean, if you add the dogs, that's 6.
Oh,
Yeah.
Más dinero.
So they're like,
Más.
yeah,
Más.
mucho.
muchísimo.
Mucho.
Also, something I was so shook when I saw more was when the Japanese students came.
And he started
He spoke
speaking.
Japanese with a full sentence. I was like, they were even surprised. They looked at him. Like,
They're like, what?
yeah. They're like, this white man know Japanese?
Honto ne? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you learn Japanese?
I lived in Japan.
Oh, you lived in
Oh.
Japan.
Yeah,
Okay.
I lived in Japan. So I lived in Okinawa. I lived at the base of Mount Fuji, and I lived in Hokkaido, Japan.
Oh, I know it's for military.
Yeah.
You were stationed in Okinawa?
But thank you, Mr. Moore, so much for just premiering our podcast. We're really
Thank you for taking the time
Yes.
out of your busy day.
And turning
Yeah,
off
super
your
busy.
I know.
radio.
The things,
being a
are,
celebrity.
the
Like,
things are piling up, so I probably got to get going.
I'm surprised
so,
you didn't
Yeah,
run
we
out.
understand.
I know, me too.
Maybe I should just- should I just run out just to make it seem? Yeah.
no, you're gonna trip on a cord or something.
Make it
This is-
dramatic.
No, but-
We need
This is what we're
dramatic
talking about. That's
exit.
probably true.
And then he's gonna sue Jordy.
No, but we're really.
I'm gonna get his Ray Bans.
Is that your bestie? Like your work bestie?
He has many work besties.
This is like moment of truth.
He's
your work
he's one of my
bestie?
favorite people on campus. Yes.
Okay.
Aw, that's
aw.
cute. And we're your favorite students on campus.
Yeah,
Right?
It's true.
It
But
is
yeah,
true.
but we're so thankful that you were comfortable to tell us some parts of your like story.
Yes.
And
Thank
we're
you
just
so
so
much.
glad that you premiered on our podcast.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You're
Thank
a very
you.
interesting person.
Yes.
And we're
And
lucky
And
to have
maybe
you
maybe
here.
I'll go into depth next time or something if you have.
Only
Part
if you're
two.
able to.
Comment down below if you want a part 2.
Let us
part
know.
two, yeah.
Like, subscribe, and share. No, but thank you, Mr. Moore, so much for taking the time and just talking to us, telling us about yourself.
Yes,
and
thank you.
we'll see you in part 2 if they want it.
Thanks
Let
for
us
having me,
know.
guys.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Okay.
Well, as always, this is Talks Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Go Hawks right here.
right now. That was good.